about Mendelian genetics. So we're going to have homozygous, which is the same alleles, and heterozygous are going to be different alleles. Now, the best way to explain alleles are that we're getting one allele from each of our parents, hence we have two alleles. Now, an allele can just be the variation. So essentially, let's say we're talking about a color of a flower. We could have allele big A and allele little a, for example. And essentially, usually one is more dominant, at least in Mendelian genetics, one usually is more dominant than the other. Hence, we get two alleles here. So an AA gives us a red versus an A lowercase a still gives us a red because the A allele is dominant over the lowercase a. And then we can have a lowercase a, which can give us blue, for example. The key thing to note here is that the AA is not important. This can be a B, sigma. We can use any symbol that we want from here. I'm just illustrating a point of what an allele is. It's essentially a variation of a gene, essentially. And then two of those alleles can contribute to some phenotypic thing that we see, at least in Mendelian genetics. So it could be because the red is better overall. So let's say the species just will do better when it's red, hence red is dominant. However, if we have a rare event such as, I don't know, like a nuclear meltdown, or okay, probably not that, something along the lines of some rare season, or let's say winter is suddenly longer than the summer, or some rare event, we may suddenly need the blue. So natural selection is not about the survival of the individual, it's about the survival of the species. Hence, I guess genetics overall has designed these very clever systems to ensure that we get the dominant alleles that we want to see and that are good for our survival of our species. But we also have kind of like hidden these like genetic variations that may come in handy when these rare events happen. So essentially, let's go over this crossing table method that we can use to essentially figure out what the kids will look like from the parents' allele. So let's say both parents are heterozygous, they're different. Well, we're likely to have the ratio genotypically, as in the genes, of A lowercase a, lowercase a, lowercase a. So that's a 25 to 50 to 25% ratio, versus the phenotypic ratio. Well, these are all going to be red, and this is going to be blue. So it's going to be 3-to-1 or 75 to 25% ratio. That's the difference between genotype and phenotype. Phenotype is what we see, genotype is more to do with the genes. Now, there's this thing called law of segregation. It seems complicated, but it's very, very simple. So for any trait, the pair of genes from parents are packaged into separate gametes, only one gene to offspring. All this is saying is that you're not going to get two genes from the parents into the gametes and sent off to the kids. You would in something like non-disjunction, but we're talking about a general rule of thumb. Remember, Mendel didn't know about non-disjunction and all these other things. He was doing experiments on pea plants. Hence, his view of genetics is somewhat limited to the tools and technologies that were available to him. So again, interestingly, ABO blood type completely disregards this and is an exception. And a hint is, well, there are actually many exceptions to his law of segregation. But a quick short answer could be, what is a law of segregation? So something like this would be enough for maybe 1 mark. And then maybe you can give an example with this if it's like 2 or 3 marks. Essentially, we're going to talk about codominance and incomplete dominance now. Mainly a lot of this week was kind of high school review, so I'll just go over if anyone is confused. Codominance means both are dominant. So if AA is red and A lowercase is white, then heterozygous is going to be red and white dots, let's say on the flower. It's not going to be pink. Even I wrote pink, I got it confused. Codominance means both are expressing. Therefore, you're going to have some red areas and some white areas. Versus incomplete dominance is when we have a mix of the two. So if I have red as my AA, lowercase a is white, I may now get a pink, and it's kind of incomplete where both are dominant, but at the same time both are not dominant.